Hello guys, we have reached now chapter number 10, and this chapter is all about ecology, which is another part of biology in which now we contribute to all the science of Earth and the science of the populations and all the living things and how do they interact with each other. So by starting with the first part is all about the animal behavior. Scientists have noticed that animals, they interact with each other and they have specific behaviors according to the niche that they are surviving in. When I say niche, I'm talking about the role of the organism in the area that it is surviving. So by starting with the animal behavior, we see that some animals have an innate behavior, which is the behavior that is all about being intrinsic. It's a fixed action pattern. Like, for example, a bird is taking care of his eggs until they hatch. This is an innate behavior where the animal is taking care of his babies. So the innate behavior is a fixed action pattern that is born with the organism, and it is intrinsic, that is affecting the well-being of that organism as a whole. The second type of action is the learning action or the learning behavior. Now, the learning behavior is a behavior that the organism is learning while he is surviving. Like, for example, if we're talking about humans, we learn how to draw, we learn how to hold a pencil, for example. We learn how to walk, we learn how to eat. And the same goes for all types of other animals. So when we talk about the learning behavior, we have several types of learning behavior because this type of behavior is not innate. It is not born with the organism. It is actually learned by time. The first type of learning behavior is called the habituation. And habituation means that the organism is used to the action. Like, for example, if you're looking at the crows in here, you can see that we have used a scarecrow here because we want to keep them away from our plants. However, once these crows are trying to hold themselves on the scarecrow, they can see that there is no danger coming out of that scarecrow. So by time, what happens? They will stand on the scarecrow and they're not scared anymore. So this is what we call it habituation. They are used to that action and they are not afraid anymore, let's say, in this situation. Another behavior is part of the learning behavior, which is the associative learning. And the associative learning can be classified into two types of conditioning. The first one is called the classical conditioning. Now, classical conditioning, as you see in this picture, you can see how a dog, for example, is served his food when the bell rings. So every day when the bell is ringing, the dog knows that the food is going to be served and he will start to salivate. Now, the scientist who discovered this action, he once allowed the bell to ring, but he did not serve the food for his dogs. And the problem was that all the dogs came and they were salivating and they were waiting for the food to be served, but it wasn't. This is called classical conditioning. So it's basically when an animal is producing a specific behavior and that behavior is because there was an action that was done before. This is called classical conditioning. The other type of conditioning is called the operant conditioning. And the operant conditioning is basically when an action is done by an animal and this animal is rewarded for that. Like, for example, when we have a maze for the mouse, and at the end of the maze there is a piece of cheese. The piece of cheese here is basically his reward because he found the correct pathway. If he didn't pass that correct pathway, maybe he will be shocked by an electrical shock. So he will learn that he shouldn't be in that pathway and he should change the pathway. Sometimes the operant conditioning could be called the trial and error because we are trying to move in a certain pathway, and if there was an error, we will change it now into another pathway until we reach our goal eventually. Another type of learning behavior is the imprinting. As you can see here, the ducks or the mother duck is moving and all the little ducks are just following their mother or they are just beside their mother. Now, this is called imprinting because we are actually printing the action of our mother. In this action, the scientist has allowed some eggs of the ducks to hatch, and he was standing in front of the hatched eggs at that point, not the mother of the eggs. And what happened is that when the scientist moved, all the ducks started to follow him. He tried his experiment again, but he placed a box, and it was attached to a ring. And once these eggs hatched as well, he moved that box, and these hatched ducklings were following the box as well. So that gave him the insight that all these animals are having an imprinting process by which they are copying what is moving in front of them. Maybe they think that this is their mother and they should follow the lead by their mother. Now, the imprinting is not an innate behavior because it doesn't last as we move in our life. Because these ducklings, once they are grown-ups and they are adults, they will not follow their mother anymore. So this is one part of the learning behavior that we should also know. We have an insight learning, which is part of the learning behavior as well. And the insight learning, or we call it sometimes the reasoning, it's when the animal is trying to find solutions for the situation that he's in. Like, for example, this monkey, he's trying to reach for the banana in here. So there were some sticks in front of him, and he tried to take one of the sticks and he tried to pull the other sticks until they can reach the banana and to put it just near to the monkey so that he can eat it. So the insight learning is just giving ideas on how to get out of the situation or how to reach for my goal according to the area that I am in. We have the social behavior, which is also a learned behavior, and it is basically part of the animal behavior, because we can see that we have some social behavior that includes aggressive behavior between animals. As you can see, these two animals are fighting because animals usually tend to be aggressive whenever they want to protect themselves, protect their mates, protect their shelter, their food. So there is always an aggressive behavior between animals whenever they want to defend themselves or their habitat. Territorial behavior means that there are types of animals that are living in herds, and these types of animals are trying to make their area as a territory that is not occupied by others or not invaded by others. So when they live in an area that is just for them, you can tell that no other animals can enter into that territory, and they are just protecting themselves by being living in a herd and in a group of animals, as you can see in here. The dominance hierarchy, and the dominance hierarchy means that each group of animals, they tend to locate one of these animals to be their dominant animal, like they're the boss, or the one who is controlling the whole herd of the animals. As you can see, they choose one of them to be, for example, the best one, and he is dominating the others. Here, this frog, for example, is dominating the others, and the same goes for the insects and so on. So the dominance hierarchy means that we have an animal that is bossing the whole group or the whole herd, and they are just following this animal. The altruism, and the altruism means that some animals that are living in groups tend to protect the other herd by sacrificing the life of some of these animals. Like, for example, if you're looking at this type of animals, they are just looking at any danger that might attack the herd, and they are willing to sacrifice themselves for the well-being of the whole herd because they need to protect the whole herd as well. This is called altruism. The social insects are part also of the animal behavior, because not all insects, they live in a social community. Of course, we know that the bees and the ants, they are a very good example on social insects, because they live in groups and they have specific tasks for each of these types of groups, because they need to make a good well-being of the whole community that they are living in, or the whole population that they are surviving in. Like in bees, for example, the well-being of the hive is very important. So you can see that some bees are responsible for collecting the nectar. Others are responsible for building the hive. Others are for the protection of the queen, and so on. So this is called a social behavior, because each group of the organisms is intended for a specific task. Now it's time for the question. We will ask you a question and to see how much have you accepted from the chapter that you have discussed. By this we have ended the part 1 of the last chapter, which is the ecology chapter, and now we'll move on to the next chapter.